Well, everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S10 and compare it against the iPhone 14 and see which one is the better one for you. Now, as you can see, I would definitely tell you the iPhone 14 is the better one, probably, but the Galaxy S10 for it coming out through over 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago in 2019, it is crazy to see how interesting these phones kind of compare. Now, if you want to pick up some phones I would recommend this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, you can definitely tell there are some key differences for sure. With the Samsung Galaxy S10, this phone came out early 2019, and since then, I mean, this phone has been a very, very popular phone. It's been a fan favorite for a ton of people, including myself. The beautiful 6.1-inch dynamic AMOLED display still holds up very, very well to this day and age. I haven't had any issues with this phone in terms of the display or anything like that. No burn-in. It's a 60 hertz panel, but it still feels like it's a almost, maybe not 90 hertz. You can definitely tell it's 60 hertz, but it's still very smooth for it being like a Samsung phone. I've had, issues with some Samsung phones back in the day, and this one holds up very, very well, and it's still a very smooth phone. Curved side as well with the display, and the hole punch display on the top right makes this phone look so good, including not limited to the fingerprint sensor in the display as well, which is beautiful. On the iPhone 14, we have a same size 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel, and it is, a good panel for sure. You're obviously getting the notch up top. You're getting a little bit of bezel, and I'll probably say the iPhone 14 looks older than the Galaxy S10, even though this is the newer phone. And this one does look like an older phone compared to the Galaxy S10, and I don't think anybody would disagree. This thing gives me Pixel 3 XL vibes when compared to the Galaxy S10. Now, this thing, I would say it's probably a better display in some ways, but I think the dynamic island or the dynamic AMOLED on the Galaxy S10 probably is better in some ways as well. Now, in terms of the rest of the body, I would probably say that the Galaxy S10 is also a slimmer phone, although it doesn't really mean too much nowadays. It kind of gives me that it's like a slimmer type of vibe. You're getting the power button and volume buttons on this side, just the volume buttons here. You're getting this curved architecture on the Galaxy S10, where I actually do kind of like with the flat side on the iPhone 14. I kind of like the flat side here more than probably just the curved side here. Now, on top of that, on the bottom, we're getting USB-C port here with Samsung DeX. We're getting a headphone jack on the Galaxy S10 as well as a microSD card slot on that device, which I mentioned before is absolutely crazy. On the iPhone 14, we have this Lightning port. So we are getting, speakers and everything here too, but definitely I think a better design on the Galaxy S10 for having it. And on the back, this is where I'd probably give some credit, maybe a little bit more for the iPhone 14, although the back on the Galaxy S10 still looks good too. So you have glass backs on both, and like I mentioned, both of them look pretty good for the most part. There's not really a difference in terms of the feel. They feel exactly the same. You are getting a triple camera setup on the Galaxy S10, dual camera setup on the iPhone 14. I'd probably say that the iPhone 14 kind of looks a little bit better, but I do like the Galaxy S10 because the camera is completely flat. So it's not like sticking out too much or anything. It's completely flat, and I actually like that a lot, as I mentioned before. Now, on top of that, you are getting wireless charging on both. You're getting MagSafe capability here on the iPhone 14, but you're also getting something else. On the iPhone 14, you're just getting wireless charging, but you are getting on the Galaxy S10 wireless charging and reverse wireless charging, which is awesome. Having that type of capability on this device is amazing, and that in and of itself, I think, is really cool. So, when it comes down to it, I'll probably tell you both these phones are good. They have their features and everything, but I definitely do think that the Galaxy S10 kind of looks and feels more like a flagship nowadays than the iPhone 14. And that is kind of the issue that we have nowadays with the iPhones. I feel like Apple could be doing a way better job when it comes down to it. Now, for the rest of the body, and for software and everything, I mean, definitely the iPhone 14 is going to be beating the Galaxy S10. The 14, it just came out, so this device is going to be lasting for many, many more years now. The Galaxy S10, on the other hand, it's been out for a few years. It's already done getting software updates for full official updates. It's getting security updates here and there. But I will say, it had a long lifespan for it having as many software updates that it had. I think this is the longest lasting Samsung phone of all time. I think the Galaxy S20, I think now is probably going to beat that record. But this one lasted for a long period of time. But if you want the, longer lasting phone, definitely the 14 is a better way to go. Now let's go into a speed comparison between both these devices. The Galaxy S10 has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chipset with 6 GB of RAM on this model. The iPhone 14 has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 GB of RAM. So let's go and see which one's the faster one between both. Okay, there we go. All the apps are cleared out in the background, as you guys can tell, so let's get into it. Phone calls, 3, 2, 1. Okay, roughly around the same thing. The Galaxy S10 is probably a little slower. App stores, 3, 2, 1. Okay, Galaxies and Androids are usually really fast at loading up their stores. Scrolling through, let's see if there's a difference. And Both are very fast. I'm like surprised how well the iPhone, I'm surprised how the Galaxy S10 is comparing against the iPhone 14 in this example. Getting out of this one, let's get into some third-party applications. Let's do Thank You 3, 2, 1. This is such a random game I test. I don't know why I still test this one. I like downloaded it one time and I still use it to this day. Wow, roughly around the same thing. Not that big of a difference there either. Hopping onto this one, we can try Snake First Block, 3, 2, 1. And iPhone 14 was slightly faster. Let's get into some gameplay and see if there's a difference. And I don't know if there's a difference here. They kind of look roughly around the same thing as well. Getting out of this one, let's get into the next one, which is Quizlet, which I don't have. Fruit Ninja, which I also don't have. We can try Snapchat 3, 2, 1. I might be logged in here, so I'm not. And they kind of got into it at the same time as well. Very, very interesting stuff. Let's try Facebook 3, 2, 1. Okay, iPhone 14 definitely was faster there, and getting out of the application was also faster on the iPhone 14 and smoother on the 14 than on the Galaxy S10. So keep that in mind. Twitter, 3, 2, 1. Okay, iPhone 14 again is the faster one. The Galaxy S10 slightly slower. Again, I don't think it's a big like deal breaker kind of thing, but it's just one of those things to keep in mind. I think those are all the applications I had. I thought I would have a lot more that were kind of similar. We can get into some other ones like their settings apps, 3, 2, 1. Even an application like that was faster, I think, on the Galaxy, was faster on the iPhone 14 than the Galaxy S10. If we get into the camera application, I'll go and demonstrate this again. Go and taking a photo. If we open up this photo, it's faster on the iPhone 14. If we open up that photo, if you guys take a look, so that one is a kind of a hard one to tell. But if you're going through and getting out of an application, it is smoother on the iPhone 14 than the Galaxy S10. So keep that in mind. But regardless, that kind of covers it up in this specific example. Now, in the camera department, this is another very interesting thing. Again, the Galaxy S10 came out years and years ago. The S10 has a triple camera setup, a wide, ultra-wide telephoto lens. The iPhone 14 has a wide and ultra-wide camera. Both can do 4K at 60 on the front and the back, which is really nice. Now, on the 14, actually, let's start off with the Galaxy S10. I think overall this is a really good camera still for how old this phone is, right? It is not a brand new phone. It's been out for many, many years now. And for this thing to have that ultra-wide camera and for it to have however much zoom, 10x zoom, for it having, an older sensor, is actually very decent. And I'm actually really, really surprised about that. You still have things like portrait mode here. You have portrait video as well, which is almost like cinematic mode, which is really cool that they have this on this phone. Single take, they have video mode, they have more modes, which is like really cool because they have a ton of things built in here too. This is a really good camera for how old this phone is. And I would say 2019, a good phone for, good year for phones as well. We had the 11 Pro that came out that year too. But this is a very solid camera. I would definitely say the S22s are better, but it's definitely not like a bad camera on this one by any means. On something like the 14, this is still a very, very good camera too. I mean, this one is arguably better than the S10, but the thing with the 14 is that you are getting a very solid camera when it comes down to it. This thing probably arguably looks better, but you're just getting less features. 5x zoom versus 10x zoom on the S10. You're still getting 0.5x zoom here, which I think is better than the S10s. But the issue here is that, with the video mode, cinematic mode, there's not a lot of features here compared to the S10, but the quality of this camera is better. So that might be the best way to put it. But regardless, to kind of sum up this whole entire thing, I think the iPhone 14 is probably the better phone now, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean the S10 is like not competing with it in any area either. I think the iPhone 14 does well when it comes down to the phone being nowadays, like, for the support for the next few years. And if you're going to get a phone like this one. But the features between the S10, it's crazy how many features this device has, how well this phone holds up to the iPhone 14. And this is if this thing was still getting software support, this would probably be a no-brainer. This would be the one I would recommend because you can buy this thing for like $200, probably even less than that, and have a very solid phone. Unfortunately, with it being outdated with software, there's really not a big reason to pick it up because, you're not going to be getting any new features in software. And by the time like this time next year or 2 years, maybe the iPhone 14 will have some crazy features that, the S10 doesn't have. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens, but that kind of covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.